Welcome back to Introduction to Programming. This is video 22 in our series. My name is John Duane. Over the last 21 videos, we have covered many of the fundamental building blocks of programming. Data types, functions, looping, arrays, file input-output. But this is only the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. But it does give you a good base to move on to more advanced topics. As I have said before, you need to practice these techniques and become familiar with how to use them. We will do some of this practicing in the next few videos, while at the same time I introduce something a little different: user interface. I want to get the ID on the screen. There we go. In all of our examples so far, we have been looking at the interactive development environments code editor windows. Not only have we written our programs there, but we have run our programs from the IDE, and often seen its output right there in the immediate window. Every now and then we would use an input or a message box. So let's actually run this. You may remember this from a previous video. Look, there's a message box, and another, and another, and another. These message boxes or input windows, these are the only formal user interface components we've used so far. Well, starting now, that is going to change. A proper user interface for a desktop application is a Windows form or possibly a worksheet in an Excel workbook designed to be a user interface. Today we'll see an example of a worksheet interface, and in the next video we will build a Windows form interface. Let's start with some conceptual background. Design considerations. On the screen you'll see some of the main things I think about when designing a user interface. First and foremost, and absolutely most important of all, the UI has to be helpful. It cannot make the job at hand more difficult. So it has to be designed in a way to flow with the work. The first operation ought to be near the top or the left. People in the West, the Americas, Europe, we work from top down, left to right. So make your forms flow that way too. You always want any variable data to be read into the program from an outside source. So that's my point here about avoid hard-coding data. So never hard-code data into your program. For simple data items, let the user supply them via the UI. Examples would be the date, the name of the user, picking an item from a list. If there are multiple screens and windows that make up the UI, and that would be common, make them similar or at least consistent in major design elements. Examples would be color, placement of buttons. This will put the user at ease that he or she is not making a mistake by misinterpreting the nature of the UI element. And if designed properly and joined by well thought out error checking in the code, the UI will help the user avoid mistakes. And lastly, the UI should provide feedback to the user. What is the percentage of completion of processing? What steps are remaining? This is really helpful in long-running programs or programs with many steps. Now here's a list of programming components that I will not go over completely today. We'll cover this in more depth next time when I demonstrate creating a Windows form for your program. Suffice it to say that you will see controls. That's what we call forms, labels, command buttons, text boxes, all these items. They're controls. You'll see them in our Windows form next time, and you'll actually see some buttons today. And they'll be very similar to what you see on web pages and programs that you use every day. So now we're going to do a little demonstration. First I want to close the program that we were just looking at and open this one, User Interface. Okay, so what you're looking at on the screen right now is a user interface on a worksheet. So let me point out a few things. First of all, we've got a nice title. Now, it may not be the most artistic thing you've ever seen, but it explains what it is we're looking at. So if you're designing these programs for a company in business, and again, this is does have a business bias, this whole video series, this first line should be the name of your company. I mean, be formal, look professional. The next line ought to describe what this thing is doing. So here, this is a user interface demonstration because their titles make them big. Next, I'm kind of working with the flow of what this whole program is going to do. We're going to take a couple of data items and then press this button, and something's going to happen. So my flow is going down. So first, I'm going to put a date in this cell, and notice that I've named that cell date. That'll help with the coding. I'm going to put a message in this box here, this cell, and I've named that message, so that will help in the coding. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to press this button. It has a go on it. Go means run the program. And this last button is exit, so this will exit us out of the program altogether and close the worksheet. Not only do the buttons have labels which make it clear what they do, but there's instructions next to them. Click this button and your message will be displayed. Click this button and the worksheet will close. So there's no question in the user's mind of how things are going to work on this user interface. Let's talk a little bit about these buttons. So these are the only true controls we're going to talk about today. How did they get there? Well, first, you need to have the developer ribbon displayed on your worksheet, and we do. I'm going to switch to design mode. So now that's highlighted, that T square in pencil. This will disable the functionality of the controls. And then this little toolbox, I'm going to pull that down, and the bottom pane of the menu has some icons labeled Active X controls. These are the controls I like to use. We have these form controls up here, but the active controls work better, and I recommend to use these. So click one of these, and then your cursor turns into a little cross, and now you can draw your button. So there we have the button. It doesn't look like much now. Command button 1, that's not very descriptive. How do I change that? Click Properties, and now we'll see all of the different properties of this button, the things that make it work, the things that make it look the way it looks. First is the name. So this is the name that the button will go by in code. I like to put a prefix on my controls just like I do on my variables. So this is going to be button test. Go a little farther down. Here's caption. I don't want command button as my caption. Instead, I want test. I'm not crazy about that font, so let's change the font. So this is where you can be a little artistic. I'm going for bold italic and big, like 18. No, make it 20. See that? Nice. Okay, so now my button looks the way I want it to look, but it's not going to do anything until I attach some code to it. So let's do that. And the way you do that is double click while you're in design mode on the button. It brings you to the interactive development environment, and it actually creates the shell of a procedure that will run when the button is clicked. This type of procedure is known as an event handling procedure. Now in this case, the event which is being handled is the click on that button. So notice here the name of the procedure is the name of the control, BTN test. That's what I named it for its name for use in code. the underscore, and then click. That's the actual event. So the operating system, when this program is running, is going to be listening for that button to click, and when it does, this procedure will fire. Now right now there's no procedure really in there. There's a shell, but it won't do anything. So let me put something in there. Message box. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to announce that this was a test. So let's do that. Now let's go back to the worksheet interface itself. We'll turn off design mode, so now all of my buttons are live. Notice when I hover over the button now, it's an arrow. It's clear that we're live. I'll click that, and the user interface displays a message box with test. Pretty good. Alright, we'll go back to design mode, and we'll get rid of this guy. Don't need him anymore. And we'll get rid of our properties, and we'll also go back to the IDE, if it'll stay on the screen. There we go. And we'll get rid of that little event handling procedure. Don't need that anymore. What we're left with are two other event handling procedures. One for the button exit button. So this one's pretty straightforward. Active workbook.close. So when I click that button, it'll just close the workbook. Sayonara. The other btn go event handling procedure, a little more complicated. Remember from the user interface, I have a couple cells where I'm going to take some user input, a date and a message. So it's going to declare variables to accept those two data elements. In this snippet, we are going to test to see that the data in range date is really a date. So we say it this way: if not is date, range date, then message box, date not entered in date box, and then we exit. Off we go. Just have to fix that. But if there is a date in there, then we move on. Similar procedure here. If range message, the next cell, is empty, so that's what the double quotation marks means, then display message box, that message not entered in message box, and exit sub. So out we go. If we get past both of these, that means we have good data in those two cells. This is the error checking I was talking about. If we get past those two, then that data goes into our two variables, and we'll display them in this message box. Pretty straightforward. So let's do that. So the great thing about the user interface is the user never has to go into the code, never has to even look at the interactive development environment. It's all happening here. So let's put in a date. 11/5/2014. As everybody knows, that's Guy Fawkes Day. So we'll put that here. Remember the 5th of November. I love that. So it's Guy Fawkes Day. So let's see what happens. We have to go out of design mode into run mode. We have our two elements filled in. Hit go, and our UI demo message box says 11/5/2014 is Guy Fawkes Day. There we go. And if I click this, our worksheet will close. And yeah, I'll save that. So there we go. So let's wrap up. Today we started talking about user interface. We covered some design principles, and we looked at a very simple example of a worksheet interface. Next time we'll build a Windows form interface. So that's it for today. I hope this was helpful. Please subscribe to this video series and write comments about anything that was not clear. I will definitely monitor the comments and will respond. See you next time.